Thank you all for coming this evening. Sorry for the slight delay. We were just making sure we had all the wiring up. As with all the hustings this year, they're all being videoed at the back and sound recorded as well. So you can watch it again tomorrow if you wish. I think it's tomorrow. It's ready online. Yes, it is. Tomorrow morning, or sometime tomorrow, it'll be ready for you to actually watch again. So actually, the format for tonight, the two speakers have agreed to start speaking in alphabetical order. So Debbie Hardest, EH, comes first, and then Christina Moore comes second on the speeches. When we start the questioning, we'll alternate it, so each one will have a turn at answering first. They both agreed to talk between 6 and 7 minutes on their opening speech. At 6 minutes, I need to introduce our timekeeper, Jason Lane. Thank you, Jason. At 6 minutes, Jason will ring 1 bell. At 6.5 minutes, he'll ring 2 bells, and at 7 minutes, he'll ring 3. I'm not going to be too draconian. The ladies have agreed, they'll try and keep to the time. But if they run over 5 or 10 seconds each, I don't think we're going to worry. It's not like in the senatorial where we had 18 candidates trying to squeeze into a piece of time. And I think you'd rather hear them finish what they have to say. They're here to assist you to make your choices tonight. That's their opportunity. But if you go much beyond 1 minute 15 on the questions, I might say, that's enough, girls. Move on. But it is definitely their night. So ask them the questions you think are relevant to you to actually to form your opinions. The one thing I will say, I think most of the people in the hall are from St Peter's, and this is a night for St Peter's parishioners to ask the question. So if you're not from St Peter, could you just hold back and see if there's any gaps at the end, if you have any burning ones. When you do ask a question, if you could just give your name, so as we all know who we're talking to, that would be useful as well. So I think if we're all ready, okay, then we might as well start. Debbie.
Thank you. Good evening, and I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight, and I'd like to persuade you that my policies and those of Reform Jersey make sense and provide the hope of change for those of you who are dissatisfied with how our island is being run. In a survey carried out last year, 75% of the public said they don't have faith in the states of Jersey. We have a duty to provide a public with a voice and a choice as to who they want to represent them in the states, and for that reason, no seat should go uncontested. I have chosen to stand as a Reform Jersey candidate because we share the same vision for the future of our island. I also believe that by working together as a team, we can achieve more to make Jersey a fairer society with government policies that are based on social and economic justice. Many of you here are comfortably off, but there are just as many who suddenly find themselves in a situation where they're struggling to survive. I recently met a woman, a mother of 3, who finds herself and her family going through a dreadful time. 2 years ago, she was a successful businesswoman and a manager. She earned a reasonably good wage and was happy. Unfortunately, she became ill and her employer was unable to keep her job open indefinitely. She thought she was secure, but suddenly became dependent on income support. The condition she suffers from is not treatable in Jersey. The health service has failed her, and the family are now faced with crippling medical bills, which they have little hope of paying off. They're selling their possessions just to make ends meet. One of the children is going through university with little help from the student finance, despite them knowing the current family situation. And this is because the grant is based on previous earnings. We're constantly being told that this is a rich island full of opportunities with many wealthy residents, and yet here we have a situation where a family finds themselves suddenly having to rely on income support, food banks and charity vouchers. They don't want to be living on handouts, they're not scroungers. But they have no choice because there's no other way for them to put food on the table. Believe me, that family is not alone, and our government has failed each and every one of them. I've spoken with youngsters unable to go to university through lack of funds, desperately searching for employment and willing to do anything that pays a decent wage so they can get off income support and stop relying on their parents to keep them. I will call for a review of the grant system so no student finds themselves in a position where they're unable to go into higher education through lack of funds. And I will promote training schemes in local businesses for those who don't wish to leave the island. The vast majority of people want to work, but they may need help. And that's why I support and will promote schemes such as Advance to Work and the Prince's Trust. There are men and women in their 20s and 30s living with elderly parents because they can't afford to move into their own rental accommodation, let alone consider getting a foothold on the first step of home ownership. That is why we in Reform Jersey believe employers should pay a living wage. We also support rent controls and stricter controls on population. There are people of all ages silently suffering with mental health issues and crippling addictions. The timescale between initial diagnosis, assessment and treatment is perilous and upsetting for those involved. Adequate funding is a must for the mental health services. A new, well-equipped hospital built on one site is needed. A detox centre is needed, and GP visits should be affordable for all, so diagnosis and treatment of any illness is not delayed. There are just a few examples of how Reform Jersey policies can improve the lives of those residents. I care, and I'm not afraid of speaking out, and would like to be a voice in the State's Assembly, a voice for people who would not normally be heard. Some of you may ask how these improvements I talk of will be funded. Well, one way is to produce savings by raising the minimum wage and encouraging a living wage, so the income support bill, which subsidises low-paying employers, is reduced. I know talk of a tax rise is not popular amongst many of you, but 3 years ago, Senator Joseph promised to find a way of taxing non-finance, non-locally owned companies. He failed to deliver, and instead we're faced with a deficit which will only get larger if nothing is done about it now. The 2015 budget has already been agreed, but if taxes aren't eventually raised, there will have to be cuts made elsewhere, and those cuts will be detrimental to our vital public services. We need to protect our locally owned businesses, but can you imagine how much money is being lost to the island by failing to tax non-finance, non-locally owned businesses and companies? 20 means 20 has hit middle earners who can't afford to be squeezed any tighter, or they too will find themselves in a similar situation to that of the lower earners. To be able to continue paying for our elderly residents and our essential public services, revenue needs to be raised by introducing a progressive taxation system whereby the very wealthy residents amongst us pay their fair share. Increasing or even removing the cap on social security contributions is another possible solution for raising revenue, which could then be used for subsidised free or subsidised GP visits. I will oppose any rise in GST and will fight for it to be taken off food, domestic heating, children's clothing and all other essential items. How crazy is it that GST is being charged on things such as medical items, wheelchairs, whilst fee-paid schooling and fuel for boats is exempt? As for the parish of St Peter, can I just finish it? As for the parish of St Peter, I've lived here 14 years. It's a beautiful place to live, but it's not without its problems. If elected, I will do what I can to help those in the flood areas of Beaumont who feel that their complaints fall on deaf ears. I humbly ask that you will support me and Reform Jersey in these endeavours by providing me with your vote on the 15th of October. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Now, Christina, you have your 6 to 7 minutes as well, plus a couple more.
Thank you, Conitard. Madam Procureur, parishioners, ladies and gentlemen. Parish life is the backbone of the island, and that's why my role as Deputy for St Peter is at the heart of everything I do and would like to do if re-elected. During my term of office, my week has begun with a surgery in the parish hall, and this will continue as it's a great chance to meet people who want to raise issues. Of course, people can contact me in a variety of ways at any other time, and they do. But I'm grateful to our Constable John, who's given me his desk for a couple of hours, the Parish Secretary Liz, and formerly Marguerite, and Sarah and Sue, who've made me so welcome in the parish hall, and those of you who visited me there. As your deputy, I'm your servant and your representative. I've fought many battles on behalf of parishioners for a variety of causes. Of course, I can't go into too much detail as they're personal, but I've taken on housing issues, social security problems. I've represented people in need of help from social services and communicated with various departments such as Environment and TTS about issues ranging from road safety to support for agriculture. Some of these cases have taken months, some years, but I don't give up easily, and I can, hopefully some of you here tonight can vouch for that. At the last election, I promised a community support team for St Peter, and with the help of an enthusiastic band of volunteers led by Sue Chipperfield, they are now actively assisting parishioners in need of help. By way of example, whilst canvassing recently, I met a lady who had to get to a dental appointment at Lake Henevey. It had taken her 3 hours by bus, but after a quick call to the community support team, they've arranged for a volunteer to take her next time, and so that will cut down her time. Of course, that is until the bus service to Henevey is in place. Another pledge was to find a safe place for our young to play football or skateboard. I've been working with the Constable, the Youth Club and other groups to work on that, and we expect to see that project completed. Again, working in consultation with the Constable, we've also worked to improve recycling facilities and the bus service in the parish. I'm promised by TTS that the bus shelter at Beaumont will be completed before winter arrives. When I canvassed during the last election, you told me that the island-wide issues that matter most to you are those of education and health. So when I took on the role of chairman of the Health, Social Security and Housing Scrutiny Panel, I did so knowing that it was going to enable me to take up the relevant concerns of you, the parishioners, and I could represent those issues in the States. Not only have I built up a great deal of knowledge in this area, but working with Deputy Jackie Hilton and Deputy James Reed, the panel has published 10 reports. Out of 6 of those, we've made 100 recommendations, and only 10 have been rejected. We've published 4 comment papers to advise states members on different matters, and we've made amendments to propositions. Because we've worked constructively with the relevant ministries, we've influenced some of the major changes the states have implemented over the past 3 years. One example is the housing reform, which will help to make much-needed improvements to the social housing stock at the Arsenal and La Grande Pièce. It's because of our scrutiny panel that existing tenants have not seen their rents rise to 90% of the market rate. Only new tenants will pay that rate. We've also raised the profile of issues like the provision of respite care and the mental health service for our young. I'm sure every Sampiere will be pleased that this work has not just helped them, but assisted in improving the lives of every islander. There's much more to be done, most importantly, making primary health care affordable for all and building our new hospital. We also need better facilities for mental health patients, improved respite for people caring for those with complex needs, whether they be young or old. And I'm also passionate about providing better quality, affordable housing for people, as well as giving our education system a boost. My aspiration is to improve everyone's quality of life. Whether it's in health matters, developing skills to get people back to work, helping families, or inspiring our young towards an exciting future, I believe we can achieve in these areas and maintain our status as a low-tax jurisdiction. How, you might ask? Well, firstly, the economy is showing signs of recovery. By creating the right environment for business, there's opportunity for our economy to flourish once again. That will create jobs, therefore more tax receipts, and by getting people back to work, we can reduce the amount spent on social security. And by supporting the public sector reform, we can also cut costs within government. I also believe in small island solutions. Whilst we have to maintain high standards and ensure safeguardings in place, ideas can be developed to improve services by using our vibrant community and voluntary sector. Just look at the successes of the community support teams, Brighter Futures, for which reason I'm wearing orange this evening, or Jersey Post's call and check service. Returning to the parish, the next thing I'd like to do is create a working party. This group would consult with parishioners and define a parish plan, a blueprint in terms of what is acceptable to St Peter with regard to future planning, facilities and perhaps energy efficiency projects. This has been done very effectively in St John, and I feel it would be of great use here. There is constant pressure on us to do our bit and to help provide affordable homes, particularly for first-time buyers. By producing this plan, we can find out if there are locations that parishioners will be happy to see developed. We are all aware of the great work our constable and procurers have done in developing the Queen's Jubilee homes at Cloleraway. These homes are much loved by their residents who appreciate the comfortable modern living they enjoy there. As chairman of the Parish Homes Committee, I would like to work on raising the standard of accommodation at the other parish site, Maison-le-Marcon. I will encourage that committee to work on a plan for those homes to bring them into the 21st century too. I hope this gives you a flavour of my views. It's important we have a good turnout at this election, and please help by encouraging your friends and family to register their votes too. Everyone counts. Mrs Hardesty and I may offer different views, but I think it's fantastic that for a parish that had not returned a woman to the Assembly since 3 years ago, until 3 years ago, you will do so again, whichever one of us you choose. This is so important as women are still underrepresented in the chamber. Thank you for being here this evening and for taking part. Thank you for believing in me and for giving me the chance to represent you. I hope that you will allow me to do so for the next term.
Before I ask for questions, there are a couple of seats still in the front if you want to come and sit down. There's 5 seats within the first 3 rows, actually. Thank you. Now, do we have a question from the floor, please? Martin's going to help us out. He's our sound engineer for tonight, and we're going to make him work on actually going around with the mic as well. So well done, Martin. A question, Mark. Sorry, can you give your name, Mark? Give your name, Mark.
My name's Mark. Thank you, John. If successful, what will you do to give young people of Jersey, the 12 to 18-year-olds, a democratic voice in affairs that affect them, and should the States of Jersey invest in such an initiative?
Thank you. That's Mr. Capone, by the way. And the first question to go to Christina, please.
Thank you, Mark. In fact, last night I met Amy Vatcher, who is from JCG and has been supporting the idea of a youth assembly. I think it's a fantastic initiative, and I would certainly back that. It's really important that young people have their voice, and I'm looking forward to the youth hustings here in St Peter, which I hope, if Debbie agrees, will be next week, but I'm waiting for that response. A couple of weeks ago, there was a peace debate in the States Chamber, which was broadcast on the radio. It was organised by the Rotary Club. I went along to listen to what they had to say. There were some fantastic speeches, and I found it a very illuminating morning, and I probably will refer to one of their speeches later on, because I'm sure there'll be a question that will be relevant.
Thank you. Debbie?
I'd like to see more involvement of young people, either at little States Hustings. Where are they? Where are the young people here? I've got 1, 2. Is that it? Unfortunately, they're not interested at the moment. We need to generate some interest for them. And States Assembly that they've had recently, that was very good. Lord helps. Twitter, apparently, they love Twitter. So involvement on there is good too. Although I'm not so keen. Sorry.
Thank you, Debbie. Do we have another question from the floor? Thank you, Graham.
Think about the reform, about kicking the constables out of the States.
Thank you, Graham. Debbie, that's yours first.
I vote no. Sorry. The reason being is because I believe that the constables have enough work to do in their parish, and they've got their procurers, the roads committees, they've got all sorts like this. By taking them away from the parish, they're not here to do the bidding of you people in the parish, your parishioners. I'd like to see them relying a little bit more on their deputies, although having said that, I would like to see option A, as it was, should have been, with one type of state member, with more of them, not in constituencies. I don't know how to explain that. Do you know what I mean? No? Okay. I'd like to see more states members, not more of them, but as one type, no senators, just like, call them deputies if you like, but they're not deputies. Okay, but my vote for constable in states is, as an automatic right, is no. Sorry.
Christina?
Well, I'm a yes woman, and I'm sorry that I'm not wearing my sticker tonight, actually. That was a great failing. As I said earlier in my speech, I believe that the parish is the backbone of island life, and I think that the 12 constables are the vertebrae. They keep it all together because they are in that chair in the parish hall pretty much every day of the week. They're meeting parishioners, they're meeting their roads committee, they're meeting their honorary police, they're meeting various people throughout the week, and they bring that contact that they have with parishioners into the States Assembly, and they are a true voice of the parish. I may represent you all, but it's in a different way, in a more political way perhaps. And so I think that the two work very well, and we've had a successful relationship and worked together on many projects and supported each other through different ideas and initiatives. And I think that works well, and it represents a Jersey way of doing business and holding our community together. It's something that's admired elsewhere.
Right, another question from the floor, please. Mr. Sokov.
Robert Sokov, we'll make it 3 in a row. I think it's important the states, when deciding policies and they're looking at a long-term view and trying to resolve problems in a slightly different way. To give you an example, we've heard talk about education, immigration, and I will get to a question very quickly, but I'll give it an example. To me, it would seem sensible that we have a loan system for students that when they return to the island, or if they return to the island, after a number of years, they may need experience, if you're a GP, etc., that loan will be forgiven. If they don't come back, they're benefiting somewhere else, not the island, it's not forgiven, it has to be repaid. For the two candidates, have you got a policy or something that you think could have a long-term impact, and what is it? Just giving you a sort of example of the thing I'm thinking of.
Thank you. Christina.
Well, one policy I've been thinking about a lot recently is actually related to education, and that's setting up a business-led careers service. Because I think that if young people had more interaction with business people from a variety of walks of life, not necessarily business people as well, I want them to meet nurses, and I want them to meet people who work in our public sector, and so that they can be inspired by what they do every day, hear about what they do, and also gain the confidence to know that they can go out and do those jobs. I think JCG Foundation actually has a program where their alumni are matched to students, current students who have an interest in that area. And they're able to mentor each other and develop a relationship, which I think is incredibly sensible, and I would like to see that happen in every other school in the island.
Thank you. Debbie?
Thank you for your question. At the moment, the students get a loan of £1,500 per year. It's payable just a year after they return to Jersey. There is no other way around that at the moment. I'd like to see it change. The students need more money to go away with. Reform Jersey haven't got a policy on that at the moment, but it's something they're willing to look into. My personal opinion is we need more help from student finance for our youngsters anyway. There's a lot of people that finding their children can't go to university due to lack of funds, and that's wrong. I'd also like to see, because there's a lot of them that don't even want to go to university or to education on the mainland, but I'd like to see more training in-house over here in businesses to build them up for the future. Our children are our next generation after all. Okay?
Thank you, Debbie. Right, another question from the floor? Any burning questions? Right down the back. Mr. Williams. Thank you, Debbie.
Glyn Williams. Being a long-time resident of Jersey and St. Peter, and being very fortunate to have brought a family up here, I wondered what the candidates' opinions are on population control.
Thank you. Debbie, population control.
We have far too many people coming into the island at the moment. It's based on around 350 people per year. There needs to be strict controls on that. Otherwise, we're going to end up with an estate, more housing needing. It's going to have a knock-on effect in all areas, water, electricity, etc. We'll have an estate the size of Le Grand Piece out here, even bigger. Where are we going to put these houses? We really do need strict controls. Population, yes, we do need to bring in highly skilled people, but I'd like to see them coming in on licence, training up locals to do their job, and when they leave, we've got the skills already here. Thank you for the question.
Christina?
Thank you. Yes, I have a slightly more balanced view regarding immigration. We do need to have control, and the interim policy does need to be looked at, and it needs to be changed, because if we do continue with the 325 people that we allow in at the moment in theory, we could end up with 110,700 people in the population by 2035. So clearly we have to get a grip on that and manage that, because we don't properly house our population at the moment. We have a lot of pressure, particularly on homes, and we need to make sure that we have a proper provision so that people who come here are able to live a happy life in comfortable surroundings. We do, however, need some inward migration, not only to fill skills gaps, but also to make sure that we have enough of a working population to help pay social security contributions and look after the older population of the future. The number of 80-year-olds in our society is due to triple in the next 20 years, and so we need to make sure that we have enough young people to sustain that population.
Thank you. Any more questions from the floor? Come on, you must have some burning questions right at the back there. Sorry. Oh, right. Mrs. Holly.
Parts of the parish around Beaumont are particularly vulnerable to coastal flooding. Following the last incidents, a spokesman from TTS was reported as saying that it was ultimately up to individual owners and occupiers to protect their own properties. In the light of proven warming and climate change and warnings of sea level rise, as well as a forecast of more frequent severe storms in the future, I'd like to ask the candidates if they believe that the state should spend money to protect only public property and infrastructure from damage, or if taxpayers' money should fund flood protection for individual householders and businesses.
Thank you. Christina.
Thank you, Jenny. The immediate example that comes to mind, I guess, is the Thames flood barrier, which obviously doesn't have a lot to do with us, but it's a similar sort of theory, isn't it? If we have that threat, then we do need to think about protecting our society as a whole, because if sea levels do rise to a certain extent, there will be problems on a more regular basis. But of course, as we were in Beaumont yesterday or the day before canvassing, we were talking about flooding that happened 70, 80 years ago. And so it has been a fact of life, and it is something that Beaumont residents are used to. It's just we have to be aware of what the risk is in the future, and so that we can develop a proper strategy to deal with it. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Debbie.
I would like to think that there is some sort of funding for these people, but where it's going to come from, I'm sorry, I don't know. However, yes, they're getting a lot of flooding during the winter time. Snow has done it, the seawater has done it. I'm willing to get up there, roll up my sleeves and help them out if necessary. Clear out the houses, put the sandbanks down. I had one lady yesterday who told me that she had no idea where to get bags from when she got flooded. And this was a 95-year-old little lady. She needed help desperately, and yeah, I'm willing to roll up my sleeves, get down there and help them. Sorry, okay?
Okay, another question from the floor. Mr. LeGros.
You know me? It's an old egg question, this really. It comes up every election nearly. We never really get a good answer out of it. What do the two candidates think of work permits in this island? Because when I started farming many years ago, work permits were in force. And it seemed to work quite well, actually. But as it is now, there's hundreds of kids, children that are born in the island, and which are then Jersey people, even if they don't originate from their family-wise. Could the two candidates please tell me, do they think work permits would be a good thing or a bad?
Okay, Debbie.
Thank you for your question. I don't think they would be a good thing at all, but we do need to stem population and immigration. If we could stem them, increase the minimum wage to a living wage even, we'll have more people in work. We wouldn't need so many people to come in anyway. And that's my take on it, I'm sorry. But I definitely wouldn't like to see work permits introduced. Don't think we need them. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Christina?
I would agree, actually, I think, with Debbie, that work permits are not the way. We do have a more regulated system at the moment since the Control of Work and Housing law came into effect a couple of years ago. And so we have a much better eye on who is here and what they're doing. We do need to perhaps look at introducing people with particular skills, but of course we have to also balance that with the EU and the regulations there, because we can't contravene EU regulations. If we did, we would have to prevent people coming in from Britain as well as the rest of the EU. So it's a very difficult one to answer, Roger, but essentially no, but we do need to work more on our skill base and bringing in people with particular skills. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Right. Just wait for the mic to come.
My name's Russell Phillips. Just reverting back to this question, Guernsey have work permits and they have 1/10 of the unemployment of Jersey. So do you not think really that it could be the answer? Because it's quite a large burden on social security. And if you look at the building trade in Jersey, it's been decimated by foreign labour. It's halved the wages. Blocklayers, carpenters, we're getting people coming in from Eastern Europe offering their services for half the hourly rate of a local person. So personally, I think permits do need to be reintroduced. And one thing I would say, we're not in Europe.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, Russell, your question particularly?
My question really reiterates to the fact that, you know, in the light of that, do you not think it would be wise to reintroduce permits? And do you think it might be an idea would you look into the way the Guernsey government run it, with a view to maybe reintroducing them in Jersey?
Okay, thank you, Russell. Debbie, do you want to have another go at that?
Yeah.
Christina? Yeah.
Do you know, I'm not against having a look at Guernsey. If I'm elected, then I'm quite happy to have a look at Guernsey, how they do it. But at the moment, no, I still don't think work permits need to come in, because if we, like I say, if we bring up the minimum wage introduce a living wage. We'll have a lot more into the workforce, so it'll be a lot less for the foreigners coming in to do. The jobs will be filled. Okay.
Christina,
thank you for reminding me of that, Russell. I do appreciate that we don't belong to the EU, but I was talking to somebody the other day who was reminding me that if we did prevent certain sectors from coming in, then we would be caught up in EU regulations and would have to follow their rules and keep everybody from the EU out, if you follow what I mean. It does, however, raise an important question that I omitted in a previous answer from Mr. Surkoff about long-term planning, and that is going back to skills and the idea of a business-led career strategy, because the other aspect of that is that you can encourage young people to develop skills from an early age, so that and plan for the future. I had a meeting with somebody the other day who has a clear idea of what skill gaps there are out there in the workforce and gets frustrated that we're not teaching the young people the right areas of skills. And they're not turning up at her doorstep with the right skills for the workplace. So I think, again, it goes back to teaching skills, and as you say, in the building industry, there are going to be 500 jobs available, but due to all the building projects there are currently available or about to come online, and we should have been training people. We have been training people, but we need to do more to train people to be shovel ready when those projects come along.
Thank you, Christina. Right in the back, Mr. Willing.
Martin Willing. I don't know if the electorate is aware that all the candidates from Reform Jersey are sponsored financially by the Unite Union. I'm wondering if the candidates have got any views on this, whether by so doing the union can now influence Reform Jersey and alter perhaps the whole political balance and spectrum of Jersey. What are your views?
Thank you. Christina, it's yours first.
Thank you, Martin. Well, I guess that's one of the elements of party politics, isn't it? That there is an element of sponsorship, and therefore ideas can be pursued through that. That's one of the reasons why I personally am not keen on party politics. It has its place, but what's really put me off party politics is that wherever you go in the UK and you tell people what you do and the fact that you're an independent candidate, people say, wow, that's fantastic. How lucky that you don't have party politics. It can be very helpful to the electorate in that they know where you're coming from, they know whether you're left of centre, right of centre, or centre, or whatever. But it can also be a stranglehold on individual characters. I think we have a lot more freedom as independents, and also we don't have to try and keep our party together. That can be extremely time-consuming and actually a distraction from the issues that are at hand.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. As I said earlier, I've chosen to stand as a Reform Jersey candidate simply because we share the same vision for the future of our island. It has nothing to do with Unite Union. Yes, they are sponsoring us, but then other candidates have sponsors too. We're not going to Unite Union and saying, how do we do this, how do we do that? We have our own policies, and that is what we're living by and working on. And we're working on policies based on a social and economic fairer justice for all. That's it. But certainly, yes, we are sponsored by Unite for these elections. But that's it. That's where we draw the line. Okay?
Thank you, Debbie. Oh, sorry, Mr. Haddon in the front here.
Sorry, David Haddon. Tourism. I'd like to know what your views are on Jersey tourism and whether you're going to be a good ambassador for the island.
Debbie, for you.
I've thought this one over long and hard. Do you know, I'd like tourism to put the fun back in it. At the moment, it's dull, it's boring. There's no fun. The bucket and spade crowd have gone. We know that. But where's the fun? We used to go down Esplanade, and there was the Swansons. There was all these different companies and that would have entertainment. We have none of that anymore. I'd like to see an indoor area for wet weather. I love Amazing Maze, and I would promote that to high heaven because I really love that place. Every customer that's coming into me at the co-op say, where can we take the children? Amazing Maze, the zoo, Durrell, love that one too. Yes, I'm quite happy to promote those. And I'd like to see more for families. I'd like to see more family entertainment in the evening too. Used to be crazy nights when I was a child. Loved them. Where they've gone? We haven't got them anymore, but yeah, we do need entertainment anyway. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Well, we've had a very good range of questions. We've had 10, which is a lot more than we had on the senatorial.
I haven't answered.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Christina. Unless there's another question down there as well.
I forgot to stood up. I do apologise. I would definitely like to be an ambassador for Jersey as a tourism island, and I thought it was fascinating today when the GBA, the Great Value-Added results showed that the tourism industry was one of those industries that had actually grown in the past year, which is fantastic, and I would like to see more of that. I love tourism. I think it's a wonderful destination for people, young and old. There is much to be offered here, and it's a wonderful thing that the amazing adventure park is going to be is going to start building, or has even started building, its wet weather facility.
And apologies to you once again for forgetting you. How could I do that? I was just about to say, we've had 10 questions, which is a lot more than they had in the senatorial, but I think there's probably some more still to come. Gentleman over the right there at the back.
Yeah, hi, my name is Andrew. Just a question, with the changes in the economic climate, do the candidates believe there is still a need for the development of a finance quarter?
What's the question?
Christina's first on that one, yes, please.
Yes, I actually think we should start, show some gumption and start building now rather than waiting for a tenant, because there are businesses out there who would like better premises. They have requirements and expectations nowadays that are not fulfilled with our current commercial premises, and also by relieving some of the areas of St Helier from the existing offices, then we could redevelop parts of St Helier to provide better quality accommodation.
Thank you. And Debbie, please.
Finance seems to be going down. I don't know why, but it does. Do we really need a finance quarter? I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I will get back to you on it, though. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blanchet, and then I'll come to you afterwards.
Clifford Blanchet from Beaumont. This was a question actually aimed at Debbie's party, because in the news recently there was a conference with an association called ATTAC, who classed Jersey as a tax haven, and the senior members of your party were sitting at the top table. What are your views, and do you think this is a very good relationship between ATTAC and Reform Jersey?
I attended the meeting just for a few minutes, and I'm sorry, but I found it a bit boring, so I left. I can't give any views on that at all. Party members are quite happy to go along to explain how the island is run, and I can only leave that up to them. We're not, although, you know, we're a party, we're not bound together with string. We are individuals still, and we still have our own views. I don't have a view either way with ATTAC. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, was that, do I regard Jersey as a tax haven? tax avoidance island, perhaps, would be better. Okay?
Okay, thank you. I think if we can, rather than go for supplementaries, if we just stick with the main question. Thank you. And the lady just in front of you here, Martin.
Would you like me to answer that?
Sorry, do you want that one as well? Apologies.
Sorry. I know the question was really aimed at the Reform Party member, but I would like to give my view, and that is that I often find it frustrating that Reform Party members say that they just want Jersey to be a well-regulated finance centre. We are a well-regulated finance centre. If we're not the best, we are amongst the very best finance centres around the world. We are globally respected and we have excellent financial services here. And I would like to see that industry continue to flourish.
Sorry, Madam, it's your turn now, finally.
Thank you. Agnes Wilson. I want to say, there's a question at the end. In the United Kingdom, there are a lot of women here tonight. In the United Kingdom, women have legal equality. In the United States, because of the backwardness of some of the states of the United States, for instance, Florida, there is an Equal Rights Association which has not managed to get legal equality for women yet. So my question is, what are the candidates' opinions on implementing the legal equality for women in Jersey, which does not exist? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Christina, your turn.
Thank you very much for an interesting question. We have started to implement the discrimination law, and sex will be the next part of the law that will be introduced in the coming year, I hope. I also belong to the Whiteley Association, which is a group of professional women who meet regularly and promote ideas. I'm also trying to encourage the 30% Club to start a branch in Jersey too, because we have a great number of boards and businesses that don't have women on them, and I would like to see more of them. Although I don't believe in quotas, I believe that we should earn our position at those tables. But the discrimination law will change a lot of that.
Debbie?
I can't add much more to that. As Christina says, there is a discrimination law coming in, and that's a good thing, I think. Women need to be in business, need to be seen as well, equally, just as much as men. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, the ladies both agreed to carry on until past. If you've got some more questions to fill the gap, that'd be very good. David, I think you have one. Mr. Drage.
David Drage. I'd just like to bring the questions back to directly parish matters, in that we are electing a deputy for this parish. The constable who heads up the parish heads up all sorts of different associations, all of them voluntary, throughout the parish, I mean, going from the honorary police through to lots of others. I would like the candidates to explain how they would help any particular groups to function. Thank you.
Okay, Debbie, that's for you first then.
Well, I'd like to help in any way that I can on the Roads Committee, helping out with the honorary police. If there's anything that needed doing in the parish, I'm quite happy to do that. I'd like to, sorry Christina, I'd like to take over your support group because that sounds an excellent group to, it's not been going very long, I believe, but it does sound like it's an excellent group with lots of initiative there. Anything else you'd like to hear? I'd love to get involved with the youth as well. I really would, with the youth club and all sorts. Okay?
Thank you, Debbie. Christina?
Thank you, David. I belong to the Youth Club Committee and also the Parish Homes Committee, which I've chaired for the last couple of years. And I'd like to continue with both of those roles because I find that they're a very important part of our parish fabric. And particularly the Youth Club. The youth have a fantastic bond here in St. Peter. It's quite incredible, actually, what they have achieved. And I will do anything to support that. Also, my role as editor of the Parish magazine, I've helped to support and promote the work of the Honorary Police and the Roads Committee and various groups through that magazine because I, being a journalist, obviously believe in communication and informing everybody of what's available. So I take my hat off to all of our honorary members of the municipality and I think that they deserve everybody's respect.
Christina, the Deputy would like to just add a bit more to her answer. Are you happy with that?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Another way that I'd like to help the constable is with building a beautiful garden out here. We've got greenery out here that needs improving. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a playground for our young children, skateboarding park for the older teenagers, and definitely somewhere beautiful for the elderly people to sit and watch the children playing. I'm sure they'd enjoy it too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another question from the floor?
Thank you, Christina.
Yes, Mrs. Lefevre. This one's for you, Christina.
Chris Lefevre. There is a huge issue within the island, which I don't think anybody will deny, with mental health. And I'd like to know what the candidates' views are on the current provision and if they don't feel it's adequate, what they feel should be provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. This is an area where we do need significant investment, and the scrutiny panel I've been working on produced a report looking at the child and adolescent mental health service recently, of which the Minister has already responded very favourably towards many of our points. One of the main points that we raised was that it's not just the individual who needs support, but it's also the families who need support, and there needs to be a more cohesive service around them. We also need to improve the 24-hour care service so that people can have a faster response when they're in times of crisis.
And I absolutely agree with Christina on that one. Mental health needs lots of funding and they should get it. Timescale between initial diagnosis to treatment, assessment and treatment is just ridiculous. I can talk about this on a personal level because I've had both my husband go through depression and my son at a critical point where he was given all the forms to fill out. Excuse me. Given all the forms to fill out, and there are loads of them. And yet, during that time while he was waiting for assessment, he could have quite easily have gone out and topped himself many times. Mental health definitely needs some help. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make it around about 27 minutes past. Time for another last burning question. Mr. DeFew. David, this one's for you.
Tom DeFew. Well, I'd like to ask the candidates if they've seen, I'm sure they have, and I'm sure they've studied in depth, the green paper on the new property tax. Now, that being the case, what are their views on the proposals, which I believe are merely, the motive behind is merely to extract more tax from every one of you present here that are householders? And I think you will see, I will forecast that you will see a tremendous change in the amount of your rate bill on an annual basis, that it will not be in the control of the parishes, and it's at a time when the parish system and all that it stands for is being eroded more and more by the succession of decisions that are made by the present states. What do you propose, how do you propose to deal with the property tax question?
Okay, is that one for you? Christina? Sorry, Debbie, yes, okay.
Yeah, property tax, The green paper, I believe, will be just thrown out. It's totally wrong. There are some good points in it, limiting tax relief for buy-to-let landlords, but I really don't think it'll go through anyway. You wouldn't need to worry. I don't like the idea that it would take it as a centralised thing from the parish either. Take away the rates and everything. Okay.
Christina?
Thank you. I believe this is still just a consultation paper, and it was suggested in the question that this would be a tax on everybody else. And I had a discussion last night with the Assistant Minister to the Treasury, Deputy Knoll, who assured me that this wasn't the idea behind it. It was the main idea is aimed at commercial property, where it's felt that the Treasury feels that commercial property does not pay enough in terms of rates. And he assured me also that it was not an attempt to centralise or even take any power from the parish. And in fact, it was to the contrary. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Right, we're dead on this. Is another burning question. I'm just going to ask each candidate. Sorry, Julia, do you want to take another last question, Debbie, as well? Yeah, the last question, then to Mrs. Rabbe. Over the back, this side.
Julie Rabbe. My question relates to employment legislation. The larger employer in the island has the resources and internal infrastructure to implement the requirements of the current legislation. However, the smaller businesses are almost put off employing staff for fear of the financial implications. I'd like therefore to know what the candidates' views are on the employment legislation and the support for small businesses.
Christina?
We certainly need to support our small businesses. They're the majority of the businesses we have. I think it would help them immensely if we could change the rules regarding unfair dismissal. It's 6 months here in Jersey and 2 years in the UK. And I think now that we have the discrimination law in place, it's time to review that. And I think that would probably be a very good starting point.
Okay, thank you, Debbie.
We do need to support our small businesses, and I'd like to see it done in a way that they're perhaps given relief in social security contributions. At the moment we have class 1, class 2, and that's it. There's nothing in between, no more. I'd like to see a 3 and 4, which would reduce the rate for small businesses, especially during their first year. It takes 3 years for a business to become established, and I'm sure that would help them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, ladies, we've come to the end of the allotted time. Would you like a last minute, each of you, to a closing remark?
Very quickly, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming tonight, and just make sure that you go home and tell your family and friends to go out and vote in the forthcoming election, because a good turnout is extremely important this time, particularly for the constables. We don't need to leave any wriggle room on the referendum question this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. Thank you to Christina and to our Conotop, and definitely for all of you being here. We'd love to see you out in on the election day voting. No matter who you vote for, we're happy to see you. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming this evening, and voting day is the 15th of October, 14 days away now, today being the 1st of October. And certainly a lot of people have said to me that they're not going to come out and vote because they were so disgusted at the way the referendum, their view, was turned down last time. But the problem is, and the poster that's on the police doors, you came into the car park, says, do nothing, then expect nothing. So if you want to make a change in any direction, then you must do something. And that something is to come up here on the 15th and put your cross in the boxes that you think are going to best serve what you want for your island. So if I can actually add to both the candidates' views, please, please, make your best effort to come up and bring your neighbours with you and friends with you on the 15th And let's see if St Peter can actually top the poll for turnouts. And that would be a nice thing if we can actually demonstrate St Peter is engaged in politics and does have a very strong view, and they're going to express their view via the ballot box. Thank you all. Thank you very much for coming. And we've got a few bottles of wine. I'm afraid I don't have the 40 fishes to go with them, but a few bottles of wine down the back for those who want to stop behind and have a chat with the candidates in a more easier setting. But thank you all for coming. If you're going home, a safe journey home.